Alright, so the big thing with Nyako Journeys is we learn from our mistakes and we grow. My last video was about productivity / motivation advice for people with ADHD working corporate jobs. So I learned from that, and also I got this new mic. Seems to be a lot better. So without further ado, let's get into this video, which is going to be about how to handle when your cats, as you can see in the background, prime example, when they start meowing, but they have food in their cups, but they're meowing because they want food at dinner time. They're acting like they need food even though they have food in their trays. So what do you do? How do you address that? Let's talk about it. All right. So first off, basically adult cats eat using a food schedule. So when people talk about feeding your cat at the same time every day, that's really referring to adult cats. Small kittens, you should feed more times through the day, but less food. Like, I don't know, a couple of spoons every 2 hours or something like that. Think of small kittens as grazers versus adult cats who are going to actually eat meals, like 3 meals a day or eat twice a day. My strategy for my adult cats has been keeping a mix out of wet and dry food. I make a mix every morning of wet and dry food, like 4 handfuls of dry food and then a can of wet food, 6 ounces of wet food. Keep them fed through the day, and then I just refill their water when needed. So you see the setup I have back there. All right. So yeah, one way to help address cats meowing for food, even though they do have food in their trays, is picking up some feeder toys. You basically fill them with dry food, and they have to do some activity like roll a bottle around or something like that to free up one kibble of food at a time. I saw this in an anime called My Roommate's a Cat. It was really good. And yeah, ever since, I really want to try and get one of those toys or multiple of those toys for my foster cats. If you didn't know, I really just foster right now, and these are my latest 2 fosters in the background. So I think the one behind me, the big cat, is Sam. I know which is which, I just don't know who's behind me right now. Anyway, adult cats should be fed on a schedule. Kittens should be fed little portions every day, like the little grazers they are. All right. One thing you should pay attention to your cat, as far as when you set the tray down for them to eat, do they spend a good amount of time eating? Or do they maybe take 1 or 2 bites and then they walk away? Or do they just meow after you set the food down? Because if they're only eating a very little bit and then walking away, or they are just not eating at all and meowing, they could have some kind of issue. You should take them to the vet to address. Also, one way to be proactive about medical issues in general, particularly like UTI type conditions or even other conditions that can be tracked through therapy, get health tracking litters that changes color according to if they're healthy versus if they got something going on. It's not going to capture everything, but it will do a lot to help you look after your cat. And if the cat is only eating a little bit before they're, walking away, or they're not eating at all, they could be having teeth problems. That is an issue. Or they could even be having like intestinal bugs or other stomach related issues that makes the eating process uncomfortable for them. Little cat right there is Preeti. Okay, so, all right. Once you've ruled out all of those medical issues, you've talked to a vet if you've seen anything suspicious, you've addressed anything, at that point it comes to just ignoring the meowing. Make sure they haven't ate some big portion all of a sudden and actually do have an empty tray, you know, but if they just have a full tray or half full tray and they're just meowing, it's hard, but you got to ignore them and they will get used to the rules of your house. As long as they're fed, as long as they have food when they want it, you don't need to be wasting food and money continuing to put food in a tray. Like, obviously, you should get them fresh food every day, but that's it. You don't need to, like, keep recycling food throughout the day. So, like I said, with adult cats, they are more used to schedules. So, if you want, instead of like trying to ignore their meowing, you know, you could find more success with basically feeding them a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. However you want to do that, wet versus dry food. Like, it's best if they have a combination throughout the day of wet and dry food. But if you want to make them a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there's somebody who will be there to make that happen throughout the day, you could do that. And that may cut down on them meowing for food because they can rely on a consistent schedule. You can set up an auto feeder. That's going to be a huge help for some cats. You can set an auto feeder, have it dispense only a certain amount at different times throughout the day, and that certain amount part is really helpful. If you're worried that your cat's going to eat too much and become chonky, you will have control to only feed it so much at a time. Just read the instructions of your auto feeder and look for ones with those kind of features of like, you can give your cat this amount at this number of times through the day. Anyway, another trick is kind of Freudian here. What you would do is make a sound or play a sound before meal times where you actually put food in the tray for the cat. That way, the cat is waiting for the sound and they associate the sound with mealtime rather than associating mealtime with, oh, it's when human makes food, that's when I get food. It's small. If the cat knows they're waiting for a sound rather than you getting it food to be the sign that it's about to be fed, then it's not going to be meowing at you. It's just going to be waiting for this sound to be made to indicate it's food time. So that may be a way to lower the amount of meows it makes. Another thing is making sure that you vary the food. So if your cat is eating a little bit and then walking away, if you take it to the vet and the vet clears it, the cat could just be bored. If you're getting the exact same brand, the exact same flavor of cat food every time you get cat food, it could just be bored. I always just naturally bought a different cat food flavor or brand each time because I, just with my ADHD brain, wouldn't want to get the same thing. Cats always eat it. There might be a point where if you get too much variety, some cats may really be turned off by that, but cats in general like, you know, different variety of texture and flavor. Shelters I work with have Google groups we use to communicate, and one of them especially has people who will say like, hey, I got this cat food I'm giving out for free, and they'll give other things cat related for free, and it's really kind of them. And I have a couple of those times been able to get free cat food. Like I got some yesterday, and that also helps me get not only a good variety of cat food, but also cat food that is popular with the cats and is healthy with the cats. As we fosters really love our cats, we want the best for our cats. So I got me some Fancy Feasts to start feeding them after I'm done with these Friskies flavors. So, and the Friskies is a different texture than the Fancy Feast. So there's going to be a variety of textures there. And earlier I mentioned the auto feeders to help you get a cat in a consistent routine as far as their meals being available to them. Some cats don't like the auto feeders for kind of a similar reason that all humans don't like AI. We want the human touch of getting services done through humans. So we don't want robots just emotionlessly giving us food. So cats don't want emotionless robots just giving them food. It wants the smile of a human, the warmth of a human hand, putting down the food bowl. And I like having that moment each morning with my little cats. So I like, feeding them, even though I can be stressed out in the morning because, of course, that's when the cortisol is the highest and getting ready for work. But the cats want breakfast. It's good times. I love them. But if they do love the auto feeder, it's a great way to incorporate routine into their days with less effort. But if not, it's an opportunity to bond with the cats, by serving them food yourself. Either way, whether they would mind a auto feeder or not, it's a good way to bond with them, serve them food yourself if that works for your schedule. So another thing that could be going on if they're struggling to eat, they could have hyperthyroidism. So that could be another reason that they're not eating as much or have weird behavior, right? So another thing to help them, just like we humans, if we're entertained, we're not gonna be, thinking about snacking so much. If you give your cats enough toys and spaces to climb on and places to explore, then they're less likely to be like, human, it's lunchtime, give me food. They're going to be entertained by their toys, and when they get hungry, they'll go to where they know there's food rather than just being like, I'm bored. Human, can you feed me? And also, another way to cut down on cats complaining there's no food when there is actually food is to not put their food together in the kitchen like I do right now. This is something I learned while researching for this video. If the cats are seeing you cook your own food, they're going to, because you're cooking in the kitchen, they're going to be like, well, I want food. You're in the kitchen, right? That's why you're here, to get me food. The cats are going to associate the kitchen with their food. They don't care about you and your food. So one thing I'm considering is putting their food together in my walk-in closet, which is where their litter box is. So maybe not the walk-in closet, because you don't want the cats associating food with their toilet. But ideally, you want to put their food together in a place that you rarely go into, so they only associate that place you're putting their food together just with the place where you're putting their food together. Like if you're in your living room, they're not going to expect you to be preparing them food. Their cats are like babies. They're going to make those associations, So if you can, find a different place to store their food and prepare their food in that different place, basically. So, yeah. All right. That is it. Should be a shorter video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this. Comment down below what experiences you've had with how your cat enjoys their meal times and meal schedules, and what you found the best way is to deal with meal times with your cat, and any other tips you have for meal times in general, or any stories you have. Thank you for watching. Ring the bell if you like this. Also, hi.